Hey folks, my name is Minor Cliff, and today I wanted to continue working on my extension for Vim helpings on VS Code so that you can go directly to an NPM GitHub repo, NPM page, and so on. So the purpose of this stream is simple. I want to add tests for this. So if I can do that, let's just have a look at what I have added since my last stream. So I did some refactoring, so this page is much nicer. So everything got refactored into this utils directory. So let's see into source utils. Shit. So as you can see, we have a set of okay, sorry about that. I need to readjust my seating a little bit, but okay. So everything is now inside the utils directory, and now we have a few functions that do different things. We have this to compose over Markdown. All these functions before existed on this activate method here, and now the code is a little bit much readable in contrast to before where everything was in here. So the last time we added the ability to add overlinks on package.json. So this extension should be right here. So if we come and hover on one of these extensions, you can see that. Let's just let's just go to this. So this is TypeScript. So it has, on top of that, I added a description. So you get the description and the title for the package, and then some links to NPM, GitHub, and the homepage. So the same, it still works the same on your file, on your TS files or React, Angular, doesn't matter. So at some point, I would like to add this for Astro, which I'm very familiar with, then maybe Vue and Svelte. Not familiar with the data too, but that's going to be an interesting challenge because I'll have to figure out a way to determine if it's an import link or not and what exactly to do with it in terms of those two projects. So today my goal is simple. I want to set up Jest for this project, which can be a pain, and also remove the existing testing packages, which were added there by default by the your generator from VS Code. So let's just have a quick look at those. So we have the test directory. So we have run test, and I don't want to remove this completely because these are tests for that. These are configuration for the test runner for VS Code test, so that you can sort of like do an end to end on the extension. But today's stream won't focus on that. Today I didn't want to focus on sort of like unit tests for these packages, and then we'll see from there what I'll do with that. Maybe using Jest to replace this at some point in the future. So at the moment, if you come into the terminal and run yarn test, not that, let's see how that should do something. I have no idea what. Let's see, let's just have a look at that. So my touchpad is a little bit finicky. Let's just turn that off. So, oh shit, this is this is going to download the VS Code because, well, I guess between the last time I ran it and now we have had a new VS Code. VS Code release on stable, so that's going to take a while. So this is the purpose. So I'm going to sort of like basically read this. I think this uses Mocha, if I'm not mistaken, and I didn't want to use Jest because that's what I'm familiar with, and from there we'll see uh, how that goes. So we'll start by removing the existing testing libraries and then adding our own. I think that's the plan. So on top of that, I want to be able to add a few things. That is, so I want to be able to set up GitHub actions for the test so that they run automatically on each commit. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'll start by deleting this. Uh, the reason I'm doing this instead of figuring a way to preserve them is because Git will do that automatically for me. So all I have to do is make sure I commit the changes and I can reverse that at any point I want in the future. So let's do that. Tests VS Code extension. And that sort of like acts like our anchor in history so that anytime we want to do something, I want to add those back in so that I can do something. Then I can figure out exactly how to do it, which commit exactly to revert. So be very clear on how you name the extensions, because that might just determine how easy it is going to find the actual commit that you want and you want to revert. So the next thing we are going to do, maybe I was a little bit too eager, but I need to remove some of these packages, such as I can see one here, which is Mocha, which is our testing library, and then we have this one. So I'm going to remove Mocha because I have a feeling it's going to be colliding with Jest somehow, and I don't really want that. So I want to remove that for now, and then we'll figure out exactly. And then I'm going to leave the electron test in there, and just in case I need to learn how to do testing for VS Code in the future. So let's save that. And I'm going to do something I really love about VS Code. So let's run yarn install. You can just do that by running yarn, no need to add install. And now that everything is since the log file is up to date, I can amend the previous commit and add this in. And this is where VS Code UI can really help you. You can also use the command palette, but let's just use the UI here. So you can say commit amend staged. So this is going to amend the previous commit and add in the files, and then I can change the description if I want to, and then just close that file and everything is done. So I think we are on for a good start. So the next thing we want to do is, let me see if I can share an extra window. So I'm just going to Jest initialization web page, initial setup web page. Okay, let me see if I can do something about this. Share. Okay, let's share the whole screen. I think that makes things easier. At that screen. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's not what I want to say. So what I want to do is essentially set up Jest for the project and be able to run a few tests. So these are the initial moments for this. So one of the things I need to do is obviously install Jest. And I need to think about what I'm doing. So something we also need to do is configure Jest. This is going to ask a few questions about our system, about our test setup. Maybe the environment, is it the browser, is it the Node.js environment? and then we are going to either use Bubble or you're going to use Webpack using, or we can use TypeScript, that is Jest, if I'm not mistaken, to set up the Jest. Yeah, Jest here. And this is what we really need to do. Let's do this and see how easy it is. So because this is TypeScript, so we are going to need to install Jest. So I hope you can see that. Let me just zoom in. Assuming I can figure out how to do exactly that. Yeah, that's better. So in the terminal, so you're going to say an add dev. So you're going to say Jest, and then also make sure we install the Jest type. So types. So from definitely types, definitely typed project. So Jest. So yeah, this is going to take a while depending on the state of my network connections, but hopefully I should have done this earlier before we started the stream, but before I came here to see me struggle, so that's a good place to start. Okay, so let's run clear. So let's say npx jest initialize. So yeah, the first question is whether we want to add the test to the package.json. Yes, we definitely want to do that. Yeah, let's use a TypeScript configuration file. Let's use Node.js because most of our, for now, I'm going to ignore test coverage, and then let's I'm still never been sure, so let's just use Bubble. And yeah, I really like to clear mocks between tests because sometimes they have a tendency to interfere with each other, interfering with the results, making it hard to run assertions. So let's say yes to that. So let's have a look at our configuration file. So if we save this, you see we just installed a few packages, then just added this one. So this is going to basically be when you run yarn test, it's going to run this script. So instead of every time I have to run npx just in order to do something, now I can run yarn test, which is going to run the this package here. So so let's have a look at the Jest configuration. It's huge with a lot of things commented out. The reason I prefer TypeScript here is because of the typing information you get as compared to the JS or even the JSON files a little bit better. So this is what you're using. So let's have a look at what we have. At the moment, we don't really have a lot going in it. So let's see. Yeah, we have the clear mock setup. You can also add this to the package JSON, by the way, but for me, I prefer everything in just in the TypeScript or JavaScript or JSON file, which is separate. Also makes it easier to sort of like have multiple configuration if you want to. So now since we have that, this basically set up what we call, what is it? This basically set up Jest. We still haven't set up Bubble. And so if we load a test, nothing will happen. So let's go back to the configuration file, to the guide, and see what we need to do. So we have already done the first step. So we can sort of like now go to the Bubble section. So we need to install Bubble, Jest, and that. So let's just copy that command. Unfortunately, we won't know if anything is working until we have everything in place. So let's just do that. As that is doing that, I think we need to create a configuration file. So what we need to do, let's just create this. So we can create a new file. Just save that. And then we can copy the content of this into the file. So I just saw something. Let's see. So I think making your Jest configuration for it will depend on your project. See Bubble Docs. So Jest is will set up Andrew. So if so, what we can do is basically if you're using Bubble for other things, for other things other than testing, we might want to change this configuration so that whenever we are testing, we can run a very specific script through testing, or a very specific configuration for Bubble for testing, as compared to when you're running buttering for production or maybe buttering for development purpose. So, and then we need to we don't need to we need to set this to that in that case. So let's just ignore that for now. Maybe we need it at some point in the future. So when you're using TypeScript, we are going to need this configuration. So let's add that in. Probably should have skipped to that. See, and I think we are going to need to modify our configuration so that it looks like that now instead of what it currently does. And let's see if and that's just it. So currently we are just using Bubble. The alternative is to use Jest, which is also another good alternative. So now that we have all that set up, now we have everything in place. So we might need to modify our configurations here because at the moment our root directory is source here, which is this file directory here, but our configuration is outside that, which is causing a few issues. One workaround is instead of using JSON, we can use instead of using TypeScript, you can use JSON, which is going to be picked out automatically. And the other alternative is to include this the file in question. So let's see if this is going to solve our question. So we are going to include just.config. And I'm guessing we need to include the bubble one as well. Okay, let's see what happens if we run yarn test. It's going to fail because we don't have any tests or going to throw some TypeScript errors. Let's just see. So it's expected to contain all source files. The file is in the program matched by just a source. Yeah, for some reason, it's not happy that we are doing this. It's not happy that our configurations are not in here. And I'm still trying to figure out the best approach for this is because TypeScript targets everything in the directory based on the way it is set up for VS Code extensions. And I think this is one of the few challenges I could foresee as I was coming into this. So I'm trying to figure out the best approach for this. Include should have solved the problem. Let's see what happens if we remove that. Might cause more problems. Let's see. So what I'm doing is basically running the extension to see if it runs with the current configuration for TypeScript. So okay, we have liftoff. Okay, no errors. Does that still work? Ooh, yay, we have. Yeah, still so sweet seeing that work. So okay, let's. So that seems to be to have fixed the problem. So let's just stop that debugger for the VS Code. So today I don't really want to deal with debugging with the VS Code. So I want to be able to run a few tests here and there to make sure some of the things in the project are working. Which at some point in the future, I'm making sure everything else is working. So let's run and test and see what happens. So remove that. Okay. Interesting. So we have another problem. Uh, this is getting compiled, which is causing out issues. The TS config for Jest here is getting compiled. This one is getting compiled to this, and it's causing a few issues for us here. And I need to figure out how to make sure that doesn't get compiled. Can we add that back in? Let's delete these two files. So the JS file and the map file. Maybe I should just use a JavaScript file instead of a TS files. Sometimes these things are easier to do it that way. So, as I do that, let me see if there is anyone in the stream. Assuming someone is watching. Ah, nice. So failed to pass the JS configuration. This is we have a new error here. So we might seem like we might need TS node. Uh, uh, let's just add that. So and add dev TS node. Let's run that and see what happens. So sometimes you have to run these things a number of times to see to get a specific error. For the most part, if you're using something like NX, this is going to be done for you automatically and things like that. Okay, I think that works. Yes, I think that works. Let's just confirm my hypothesis. So let's clear everything, then run and watch. I think I need to close out this one. It's just eating out my processing capability. That seems to be working. I am not sure why we have a bug yet. So I need to dig into package.json and figure and solve this problem. So we are getting a few errors here and there. I'm guessing this has to do with something to do with how everything is imported, but we'll check on those in a sec. So first I need to see why Webpack is or what's happening. So my guess is, yeah, this is the issue here. So let's remove that. Do you have anything else that's running before? This is let's just this is the bane of my existence. This is what is compiling the test, and then we have the watch. So I'm just going to do some cleanup. This makes sense for Mocha, but I don't really want that to be messing with my test because it just add things that add to things that could go wrong, and I don't really want that. So let's see what happens when I run yarn test. Okay, much better. Apart from one problem, in that we have, what is it called? If I'm not mistaken, I've just seen it picking up the wrong test files. It's getting 4 test files while I have 0. So let's see. Yeah, this is a problem because it's getting, it's using this directory, and we don't really want that. So let's, for now, let's delete that. And something I can do better, so I can say and test. I think I can say star.test test.that. Yeah, that's to be expected. That's so not test files were found written in TypeScript. So let's add a few. Which do we test first? Let's see which is easier. So I want something that doesn't have external dependencies. Okay. So this is a very good option, that is provide hover package for JSON. And what this basically does is create the hover object, the what is it called? The markdown content for the hover. And it calls markdown this compose hover markdown content, which is shared by two, and this just creates the markdown content. But we probably don't want to test that one as the first one because it has this method here, which is called fetch packaging info from NPM, which is using GOT to do a HTTP request to the registry and get the info returning a JSON or a 404 if the information returned is undefined. If it returns a 404 returns undefined or throws an error if the package name was not found or the package was not found on NPM. The reason for this is because this could be to do with TypeScript aliasing for which is basically doesn't exist on NPM, although there could be a name collision. It's something I'm still working on, and I need to figure out the best solution for that. Okay, so I probably pick something else. So what does this do? Yeah, let's start with this one. So create a new file called, oh, I need an extension for this. Okay, now we have that. So let's write a fake test. Let's see. I think we have a couple of scenarios. One, if import path is empty, is undefined, empty or something like that, we should return an empty string. So returns empty string if an empty string is passed in. I know, very solid test. So let's do something like that. So I think we need to import. Oh, I'd have to say I have to give props to GitHub, GitHub Copilot, because I have no idea what I would do without it, and I have no idea if this test is also going to pass. So let's copy this and say yeah, and test. Let's just test that. Okay, so now good news is that our tests are passing. Or at least we have been able to set just satisfactory. And now we can be able to add tests. So the first part was figuring out what changes to make in order to run to run tests. And now we have been able to do that, and you can see this one runs. So what we need to do now is test all possible paths, and we can do that by just checking at the code what it looks like, and then testing different scenarios. One of the things I should say is that tests are like documentation, in that if you look at tests, you should be able to understand how the code works. And if you look at this, if so, the name is a little bit self-descriptive in that determine package name for NPM. So if it's given an import path, so I didn't say that, but at least it's a little bit descriptive. I probably should have added a comment. But what it does is that we have the first part, which is this, and we have tested that, isn't it? So the next thing we need to do is test the next part, which is, so this part we replace, so one of, depending on people preference, this import path is going to look, is going to have either single quotes. So something like, let's say if you're importing React, it's going to look like that, or React. And we need to remove these quotes so that we are left with, we want this to be transferred to just React, because React is going to be our package name. So if we have a path, so let's say React, let's say, I have no idea what, I think everything is globally exported for React. But let's say we had React use state. This is just an example. It doesn't look like that. We want to be able to basically say, strip out this part if it doesn't have the organization namespace. It's not published by an organization. So organization packages are similar to, so let's say, let's take Angular for instance, which is another framework I'm very familiar with. So in React, everything, in Angular, everything is exported under the Angular namespace. So we have core, which depending on the preference of the person using the extension, this could look like that. Not like that, like this. And we want this to look like that. So if you look at that, you can see where I'm headed with this. In terms that when I pass this, I want to be left with React. If it has a, let's say, import path is, let's say, React, let's say leave something, or I want to be left with React. So if it has, it's published as part of a global of an organization on NPM. It usually starts with art, then has that art scope, and then it has a slash, then a name. So in this case, we want to keep this like that. Otherwise, we want to strip everything, and we are left with the first name, which is the package name. So for React, we have just React. For Angular, we have Angular core. That's the package name. Angular is the organization in which core is published under, because in Angular we also have something like, let's say, forms. I think we have, they are published under forms. I think it's trying to figure out if I can remember this one. Is it common forms or HTTP? Let's go. Thank you, yes, Git Copilot for suggesting HTTP. So as you can see, so what we want to do is, in this case, we want to be able to go to the collect, which to the collect package. So in this case, these ones are not published under that. They are published under that. So this is the package, and we can see that by if we copied this name here and went to our browser, said npm package, whenever this obliges me and loads, which is taking ridiculously long time, you can see what I'm talking about. Wow. Yeah. So this is a package for core whereby this no, you don't really need to visit this most of the time, but I'm just proving my point. But if you are to add HTTP, let's see what happens if you add HTTP. You get a file form. So our package name is now our package name is Angular Core. I hope this is making sense. The reason I'm showing you this is to understand what we need to test for this particular use case here. So let's just remove this. So working by the code, so we need to clean the import path by removing double quotes and single quotes, and then trimming any space that we may have. And then the second thing we need is to remove any local imports. By local imports, I mean anything that has been imported by absolute, relative, or absolute or relative path. So in this case, an absolute is is this one. This one is for, and these ones are for what is it called, the relative path. And this one takes you to the root directory and then starts looking for a package from there. So we want to make sure we are not treating this one as a package. So for instance, if we had a component like let's just write something here. If we go to extension.js, we don't want this to be treated as an npm package because it's not an npm package. We want that to be removed from the list, and in that case, we want to return an empty string. So let's make sure we can be able to test that use case first. So one of my favorite, so in this case, we have a number of test cases that we can test here. So I'm going to see if I can do something we call a table test, which is basically where you provide it with scenarios and then run assertions based on the results. So let's say test dot each. I think this. So in this case, we are going to have import path output. So in this case, so what we want to do is say, let's say our import path is some local file. Let's just go generic like that. .ts, maybe not, some local file. And then we expect it to return empty. The same thing goes for something else. Let's see. So our second test case is going to be if it starts like that, some local file.ts returns empty. And then we want to do another relative path. So let's do that. That also returns empty. So, and then we want to say we have an absolute path. Thank you, Copilot, for that. And then we want to have a few extra positive ones. So in this case, if local path is angular / common / let's say HTTP, that returns that. And if let's just do that. And if it's core, maybe you're importing an ng module or something, that returns core. And so we have one that is within the scope of an organization. Let's do a React one. So React some file, some NPM, some file somewhere, and then we can have that as React. So So what we have created here is a table whereby this is going to be the name of the field, and these two are going to be the name of the fields, and these are going to be our test cases. So one thing we can say is type test data shall be equals to import path and then output to be actually let's just use the suggestion by GitHub Copilot, which is always better than mine. Oh, machines are going to replace us. So now what we can now do this. Yeah, we can do that. So, and this is what, so what we want to say, if, so let's type this one, just, so this is how we use this to make sure we have the correct type. So this, so what Jest is going to take is going to take this one, and in each case, it's going to feed this as an object, this object here. As you can see, this match up to the table up top. It's going to feed in into a function here, and we can run assertions from here. So, and the beautiful part is we can say if import path, if import path is import path. So in this case, this is a variable that will be replaced by whichever test case, the expected package name. So then from here, and GitHub Copilot again is way ahead of me, it's going to say something like that. Assuming I haven't messed anything out, I should be able to run this test successfully. Let's see. Okay. So all 8 use cases passed. Oh, well, I have no idea how many use cases are this. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 use cases passed. And let's just expand this so that you can see that. So as you can see, Jess is able to tell me if this is the expect what to expect. So in this case, it's an empty string. Empty string. I probably should figure out. So the first few use cases are expecting an empty string, and then the other use cases are correct. So in this case, it's Angular common. In this case, it's Angular core, and in this case, it's React. So I guess that's a win for me, and I'm very happy about that. So now what I'm going to do is going to remove this because now I can now do something better. And now come here, and that use case can now be tested as part of our what is it called, as part of our table test, so that any use case that we want to test, now we can add it in here, and then we can write a much more compact code compared to having all these cases tested individually. So let's see if we tested off all our parts. So we have the clean one here. We have this one, we have this one, we have this one. There is one test case that we haven't tested, and this is this one. So let's test those. So what we are going to do is say, let's take, I'm going to duplicate these 3 because they are most likely the ones that are going to have an impact. And then we are going to say, if it is quoted like that, expect that. If it's quoted like that. So as you can see, we have we are quoting it with single quotes, and then we need to quote it with double quotes just to make sure those ones as well. And the reason I'm adding so many use cases is to avoid a regression in future. So to avoid confusion, I'm going to use the backtick instead of instead of single quotes. So the same thing can be said. I did admit there's no extension to replace that. Maybe I should build that left if there's none. I should have an extension that I should tell it to replace backticks with single quotes or vice versa. Yes. If someone is listening, please build that. Or I'll build that. So let's run that now and see what we get. Yeah, they pass, all of them. So this is an expected result. So normally what you do is use TDD to run these tests and ensure that they are failing to begin with, and then sort of like write your code afterwards. The problem is when you are doing experimentation, it's kind of difficult to know how exactly to test a scenario. So sometimes you do TDD, sometimes you don't. So in this case, I'm very happy because I have never built a VS Code extension before. I have never contributed to any in the open source. So for me, this was like a new horizon, breaking new ground. And I'm very excited how this one turned out, the extension otherwise. But if you think there are features that you'd like to see in terms of the extension, please feel free to reach out on me to me on Twitter or the GitHub repository for the extension. So let me see if I can bring that up real quick. Assuming my internet is cooperating. So this is the GitHub repository for this. So just open an issue and then we'll look into it, or even better, open a PR and I'll just merge it in. The the less amount of work I have to do, the better. So now we have that done. We need to, I think it's 10:50 here. So which means I have about 30 minutes to go. So I probably have to schedule another live stream for this. But I think I can squeeze in another more complicated test. I have covered a use case which I had not foreseen I would do today, like this one. This is called a table test. They are very nice to create compact tests for repeating scenarios instead of like I would have got. In fact, if you had told me to write the tests for this one over and over, I probably would have gotten lazy at a probably halfway point, assuming I'm that keen on writing the tests. But because it's just a single line to add an extra test, I can do it fast. And table tests are amazing. I have used them in different languages, and I usually prefer them whenever that's possible, but sometimes it's not possible. So let's look at something else we can test here. That's going to take about 10 minutes, right, to test for. So I usually don't really like having a lot of things open. It gives me anxiety. So I'm just going to close everything, and then we are going to look at one of these packages. I want something a little bit more challenging without being too difficult, which I feel this one is going to be. But because I would have to mock out these 2 points, so I'm just going. So I'm going to push that one to the next test. These are more along the lines of VS Code. This is the function that gets called directly by VS Code, which means that it accepts the document and the position of the current mouse, and you need to provide this information as accurately as possible in order for this to work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So for now, let's leave that and focus on more low level. So I think I'm going to try this one out. So this function does something very simple. It does what is it called? It does a HTTP request, which is a GET request to the backend to Node.js or NPM registry, and gets the latest information about a package. This is probably not the best plan. I have a few things I would really like to do. I'd really like to do at some point in the future, get the exact version you have, which is more appropriate for you compared to having the latest version, because you could be on version 5 and they have introduced like version 9, which has like 4 major version releases, which could be a different kind of documentation from what you currently want. And the whole idea of semantic versioning is to make sure that things get kept as new versions are released, so that you can be able to say if something changes in a way you don't like on a newer version, you can stick on another version. Yes, it's a security vulnerability, but you're free to do that. So no one's going to blame you. Okay, someone is going to blame you, but you better face up the consequences. Okay, so I'm going to write the test for this one. So let's just copy the file name. Let's create a new file name. So we should figure out how to do these things properly. So let's say unit.test.ts, and as we do that, so let's say test. I think I should have something to complete this one for me. Should, let's say, return package information if found on NPM. So why did I pick this package? Let me explain. This is using God. So what we need to do is to mock out the request. We need to mock out this one because we don't really want, every time we're running this test, we don't really want this one to be to call the NPM registry, because it might be unavailable, and that makes our test dependent on an external variant that may fail or may pass or may cause it to time out in some cases, depending on X factors we don't really want. So what we want to do is make our test deterministic, in that we are able to predict the behavior regardless of external factors. And calling this one is not that. It's anything but deterministic. So how do we mock out this one? And to tell you the truth, I think let me just see. So if it's a class, it's easier to mock out. If it's not a class, that might be a little bit easier in a way that makes our test. So I think we could use knock. Let's just see. So if you're not aware of this, knock is knock. Let's see, can we fetch HTTP mocks? Can we do this? Something else. Let's just, as we do that, let's see how to do mocking. Might end up having a much cleaner solution than mine. So what knock basically does is that it you can sort of like mock these HTTP responses and get and tell it what to return for each request. So in this case, if I were to zoom on this one, let's see. So in this case, what you're saying, mock out the call to GitHub repository, mock out the path, and then reply with this value. So whenever knock sees a request matching this, it's going to return this. Okay. So as we do that, let's see if we can find, let's see, testing here. Let's see if we can, what their documentation say about testing. Ah, nice. So they suggest knock as well. So I don't even know why I doubt myself. So yeah, add. Let's add this as a type dependency. And because I'm a lazy developer, I'm just going to copy stuff. So copy that. Probably should not have copied that. I need to copy the test as well. So in this case, we say this. Let's add that as the global scope, and don't even think where do we have this as a variable? So let's do this. Let's add the before hook here, and for now let's not scope it and see what happens. And then we're going to call our package name here. So so in this case we want to say, if it's running to this, we don't need this string one, and let's say constant. Let's use package name equals to package name file. Let's just give it that generic name like this. If that's a name, so you're going to get this. Okay. So package name found. So if that's our package name, then we want this to return a 200, and we don't really care about a lot of stuff. So in this case, let's just return the package name. So let's see, do we use this? We want to return a status code. That's the only thing this function cares. So it's the rest of the stuff are passed back to the caller to determine what to do with the information. So in this case, we want to say constant, let's say constant response shall be equals await. So in this case, this needs to be async. Fetch that, and we need to import that. So let's import that, and we can say expect less to match in line snapshot. So what this is going to do is going to take this this response here and create and return that. So with some luck, if we run this test, this should pass. Oh, apparently not. Oh, this is not good thing. So we have an error. So let's just read the error message. So just fail to pass file. This happens when your code or it's on standard syntax. So just it is not an odd one, just sort of the box just by default it ignores node module, which is what got is a node module. And I'm trying to figure out the best solution for this. So the reason for this is because Jest doesn't mock out, doesn't transform external module, which is what got is node modules. So we need to figure out how to compile this. So let's see if we can figure out this. I think we were on the configuration part a whole back. Let's try that and modify it a little bit. We don't really want we don't really have any CSS files here. So transform. Let's just add it to the bottom. Just when you think you have everything covered, and let's see. Ooh. It better be a different error. No, same error. So that did not solve anything. So welcome to the stream of today. I try everything and it fails. So what am I looking for? I just had to pick this one. So using TypeScript, I think we need the configurations correctly. We might have to end up Googling, which is so what do we need? So let's just say the elements. Let's see if this helps. So ensure that you disable transform by passing that. Let's see if that works. So we want to pass in an empty that, and then we can say we can pass in that experimental okay. So what we need to do is set that as that. Let's see if that works. So let's run that command. Yeah, no, not that. Still no joy here. It's also no, cannot use. Is this a different error? Let's see. And trying to figure out the best solution for this. Just okay. So we need to do some googling to make everything work. So let's see. Let's see if someone has an answer for us. Well, it seems like it's not the first time I've come across this error. So it seems like someone wrote an article. Yeah, that was set to that. Yeah, let's see. Hmm. Let's see. Okay, I think we have a few winners here, and I think this is going to solve the problem. I'm just trying random stuff to see what sticks to the wall. So this is basically telling you to transform the files in node modules using Jest. Ah, that's better. A different kind of error is always nice. Jest. Okay, fire in the hole. Okay, back to where we are. Mhm. I think we might need to do some research very specific to Babel in order to make this work. Yeah, something close to that. Let's see if that solves the problem for us. Mm, that's our Babel configuration look like. Babel. Environment, so modify that a little bit so that this object looks something like this. Something like that. Ooh, enjoy. Cannot, I'm trying to figure out how to exactly is the issue with the knock now. Ah, interesting. So I think that our solver I still haven't solved this, and I'm going to have to stop there for now. And then I'm going to schedule another live stream for tomorrow, and then we can resume exactly this from this point. Also need to go and do some research in relationship to this. And this ended up not working exactly as I was hoping. Exactly as I wanted to. Some positives, some negatives, but we'll resume this on how to set up to write these tests for Babel and how to solve these problems specifically in relationship to TypeScript, Jest, and Node modules which need to be transformed. Assuming they need to be transformed, do they really need to be transformed? Not really. Yeah. Yeah, this is a problem that's for going to be on my mind for a very long time. It's it's going to be simply something I've been thinking about for a while now. So for now, I'm going to end the stream there. and then we'll resume this tomorrow. So have a nice evening and goodbye.